हेलो नमस्कार आदाब। मेरा नाम है आरजे राज। आप देख रहे हैं 1706th एपिसोड ऑफ नागपुर मोस्ट हैपनिंग फेसबुक लाइव शो, जिसका नाम है राज की बात द्रोणाचार्य के साथ। पारिक ब्रदर जूलर्स का धन्यवाद। दे प्रेजेंट राज की बात द्रोणाचार्य के साथ इन एसोसिएशन विथ quality sales and quality tiles. Really want to thank SMMCA who's helping me with Dronacharya, to whom I am interviewing today. जिनका मैं इंटरव्यू कर रहा हूँ, सबसे पहले तो वो मेरे लिए एक आदर्श है, मेरे लिए एक इंस्पिरेशन है और मेरी टॉप फैन भी बन चुकी हैं। यस, राज की बात की टॉप फैन बन चुकी हैं। एंड पहली बार ऐसा हो रहा है कि मैं अपने ही शो के एक टॉप फैन के साथ इंटरव्यू करने वाला हूँ, बट उन्हें ये नहीं पता कि मैं उनका बहुत बड़ा फैन हूँ। शी इज़ हेड ऑफ द पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ द आर्किटेक्चर एट SMMCA Nagpur, a doctoral degree in education with postgraduate degrees in chemistry. She is a super lady because she's been teaching for past 45 years plus now and have been an HR trainer for more than 40 years. ये curiosity पैदा करूँ उससे अच्छा सीधा बात करूँ with somebody to whom I have great love and respect, Dr. Lakshmi Rao मैम। मैम नमस्कार। मैम स्वागत आपका राज की बात में।
नमस्ते।
Finally you are on my show. You're excited?
I am excited. I'm very privileged to be on a show.
It's an honor मैम, it's a blessing। मैम सबसे पहले तो ये कि मैम ये जो केमिस्ट्री से आर्किटेक्चर की जो जर्नी है, ये जर्नी में मैम आई एम श्योर आपको बड़ा मजा आया होगा। हम जानना चाहते हैं कि ये जर्नी कैसी रही है।
But I'll have to start from
beginning.
first.
Yeah, please.
Every time you ask, I have seen your Dronacharya series, that how did you get into teaching?
Right, ma'am.
It's a question which you ask all Dronacharyas.
Yes, ma'am.
I was a late child to my parents. I was born when they were in the 40s. And I was born into a world of words. My father was a very esteemed journalist as the editor of Hitwat. My mother was teaching in a college. So I grew up with words and I grew up with writing. So ever since I could read and write, I just did one thing which I knew was to read. Read fiction, read stories, and that always fascinated me as to how the writer was weaving stories around characters. By 6th or 7th I decided that I wanted to do psychology. I wanted to understand people more through these stories which I read. When it came to 9th, when it came to choosing streams, my parents just said, I think you should have a grounding in science and then go ahead to psychology. So I passed out with science, and then how life just goes on. I ended up doing my master's in chemistry. Before I realized it, that I still wanted to do psychology. That was a dormant part of me.
Right, ma'am.
After psychology, after masters, I joined IIT Powai for my PhD, and then tragedy struck my family. I lost my elder brother in a car accident when he was a professor at IIT Powai, and my ailing parents were there. So I took a break and came back, and IIT was very considerate, saying that we'll hold your admission for a year. When I came back for rituals, my father expired soon after. My mother was there, and in these rituals, in this this shok ka jo period, the period of grief.
जी।
My old school, which was Mount Carmel and then St. Joseph's, the nuns came to meet my mother. And they said, what are you doing? What's she going to do? I said, I've taken a break of 6 months. Let me decide what to do. Why don't you come to our school? There is a small vacancy there for 3 months. And why don't you come there? I said, okay. Instead of staying at home, let me do that. I walked into my class, Raj, on a fine morning in 78, not 80, 78. And I came home and I told my mother, the first thing I'll do is cancel my IIT admission. I have found my calling. So she was skeptical. She said, ek din mein kya pata chalta, you want to become a teacher? I said, no, this is what I want. I want to connect with people, and that's what I liked. And then my journey into teaching, I continued teaching. I was in school, then I changed schools, and finally came to LAD when I was here for 33 years. And I continued into doing my education, my master's in education and my doctoral degree in education. And then I complemented with additional degrees in psychology and journalism. And as I was about to retire, 2007, the Department of Architecture was still there, as a part of LED.
Right.
And Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, who was the head and the principal, she called me up once and said that based on my research and my guide, Professor S.A. Deshpande's recommendation, we went and met late Professor B.V. Doshi, the famed architect, and he said that I need a course for architects to be skilled in teaching. Because if you know, architects is the most sensitive of all academic disciplines.
Absolutely.
And you require sensitive teachers. So Dr. Chakradev called me and said, how about joining me and designing the core curriculum? I said, I don't know architecture. She said, you learn. We don't know education. I said, yeah, I can teach you. So then started this journey of developing a core curriculum, and then I joined them, and then it was time for my retirement from here. And since it was just an internal shift, I shifted to the Department of Architecture Education. But then that is the time I told Dr. Chakradev that if I am starting a course for skills, there are other things we need to imbibe through the course.
Ji.
Architects in practice or in teaching need to be sensitized to people, because ultimately it's the user. You need to be sensitive to their demands, their desires, and that is going to be the core part of this curriculum which I'm going to design. So in addition to content, we will also look at how to sensitize people, how to be sensitive towards the other human being.
Ji.
And this has been the mantra of the course. It's the only course of its kind in India, and we are now in the 17th batch of the course. Unusual thing about this course is the age is heterogeneous.
Right.
So we have they're all architects, we have fresh graduates, and till now the oldest student has been 60 years old.
Wow.
So people coming in from practice saying we want to teach, and then they come to know about this course. Practice se tang ho gaye, we want to do teaching. How about sensitizing us? That's the word I'd like to use. And that's how this course has been running. So 45 saal kaise ho gaya, I don't know how I've traversed this journey, but it has been a journey of continuous evolution.
मैम, नाम लक्ष्मी होना और किरदार सरस्वती का होना, ये अपने आप में एक एक बहुत बड़े अजूबे से कम नहीं. मैम, आप अपने आप को रोज क्या कहकर इंस्पायर करती हैं, क्या कहकर पुश करती हैं?
My fundamental ideology is, at the end of the day, if I have not intentionally hurt anybody, if I am not intentionally, unintentional तो होता है, गलतियाँ होती है, because you are a human being. In unintentionally, I have not deviated from my core values, then I want to go to bed a happy person. That's the start of my day. That my day, let me stay with what the values I believe in. And this is something which we propagate continuously through this program. Stay tuned to your values, your beliefs, because other teachers, I've had a lot of arguments with them on this, that the space before a student is a sacred space.
Right.
As a teacher, it is a pious space for me, and there I'm not even only delivering content. I'm delivering my values. I'm delivering my beliefs. My body language is exuding a lot of things on which it makes an impact on the student. So I have to be very responsible, and if I have to deliver my values and beliefs, I should stick to those values and beliefs. So that is what I have always believed in.
Ma'am, what I've heard about is you've stood by students inside class and outside class, both. You've, if some student is going through a rough patch, you've also sat with the student, heard the story, helped the student the way you can. Ma'am, with time, एक स्टूडेंट में क्या बदलाव आप देखती हैं? पहले के स्टूडेंट्स जब आप पढ़ती थी, जब आप पढ़ाने आई, तब के स्टूडेंट्स और अब के स्टूडेंट्स.
I have maybe just 3 micro stories to share about students. One was a person who was teaching in Mount Carmel, very shy, and those days she wanted to become the head girl of the school. Very shy, but somehow she found me approachable, and she said, how do I go about it? I said, you really want to become the head girl? She said, yes. So I said, let's work on it, and she became the head girl. Today she is one of the leading ENT surgeons of the city.
Wow.
I have been a witness to her milestones in life. And the one day when I went to her, there was a lot of crowd, so I sat. I didn't tell the receptionist. I waited my turn. Those were some of the happiest moments I spent, Raj, in that waiting room. She said, "Arey, आप क्या कर रहे थे वहाँ? अंदर क्यों नहीं आए?" I said, "No, the pleasure of seeing you from where you started to what you are now is something which is unparalleled. I can't explain." There was another girl in LED who used to never come to the lab. Sent messages. I also got a lesson from her. One day I saw her in this social gathering, dancing away to a vibrant number. I sent a message across, "Milne bolo." She came shaky, said, "Where have you been?" क्या यार तुम ऐसा डांस करते, एटलीस्ट यू कुड हैव टोल्ड मी, और बातें बताई रहती. She slowly said, "Yeah, I missed class. You know, I'm a juvenile diabetic. तो 2-3 बार मुझे I need to get admitted to hospital." I said, "Oh, suddenly, you know, my tone changed. I said, "You know, I've been a diabetic now for 20 years or more that time." So started sharing things on how to manage diabetes. So I said, "Why didn't you come across?" And that is the first lesson she gave me. She said, "I like talking to you now, but otherwise you come across as a very formidable person. You know, touch me not." And that is what kept me away. जैसे आपका मैसेज आता था, I used to not attend. But you're not as, that bad as I thought you were. That gave me my first lesson. That what is it that people, when they come close, they say, "Oh, you're so good." But from far, what is it that they, what is it that stops them? And I worked on that. I thought, what must it be that is stopping them from coming? Worked. It has been an evolution. Because I think apart from teaching, the best teachers for teachers are their students.
Wow.
And two more small stories. Another girl, young girl, 17, 18, you're talking to them, and eternally optimistic. She used to get up and she used to be optimistic. And then when I started learning her stories, I said, "Hey, I have to learn this optimism." She said, "Yeah, I've been bullied in school." But then, the eternal optimist. Today she is one of the well-known actresses in the Marathi television industry.
Wow.
And we bond over books. And recently an architect student of mine, working for a long time, suddenly starts her own firm. And then milestones, there's a call coming, I know what's happening. I thought, how about 4 names? How do you think, which name should I have? Then she says, "I've got 2 projects." Then she says, "I've got 7 projects." And these milestones are fueling you to grow and to evolve. So,
but ma'am, a lot of interviews I've done in the past with teachers, professors, where they say that today's students, this generation, they are very concerned about them because they are ready to take any risk when it comes to learning new things, but their attitude is not that great or not that positive towards learning, or their attitude is a little laid back attitude. What's your thought about it?
You have to grow with them. You have to evolve with them. It's a continuous mantra which I'm talking about. You have to understand why they are the way they are. You can't be, the old thing, spare the rod and spoil the child. It's gone out. It's thrown out now.
Absolutely.
You have to know why they are not interested. It also comes from a value system, a deep-rooted belief in a value system, which is given to them by their parents. But then, as a facilitator, I won't like to call myself a teacher. As a facilitator, you have to be in tune with contemporary times. And that is one thing, I think it's the biggest compliment when students tell me, "Arey, aapko bahut sari cheezein aati hai." When I quote Netflix examples and Prime Video examples in the class, they said, "Acha, aap wo dekhe ho? Okay, did you see this?" And then, it comes to, how about you seeing this and you seeing that? So I think, for the today's student, you have to be this ear to the ground. You should know what is happening around in society, and you have to keep abreast, and you have to be resilient. If you don't change, you can't stay in teaching.
So you do binge watching and all, ma'am?
I do binge watching.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which is the latest web series you've seen?
I'm seeing a web series called The City of Dreams season 3 on Hotstar.
Okay.
Because it's intrigue, crime, and
it's about this girl who wants to become a politician,
and becomes and goes away.
Yeah.
So I just come across. And
ma'am, you've also learned journalism. I would like to ask you a question on journalism too. Ma'am, what do you think about this complete scenario of journalism where, you know, it's too creamy?
It is creamy. I have switched off, Raj, for this because it is, I think, the need of the times. Okay, I may not buy that. I may not buy what they are doing. I don't buy. So instead of voicing my anger, it's a part of the change. It's the part of the way the world is changing. So I have nothing else to do, accept it. But I have a choice not to listen. So I select.
But ma'am, if you've been upset with something, do you believe that in today's time, it's always better to avoid than to raise the voice?
I avoid. I avoid.
You choose to.
I choose to avoid because sometimes people are not ready to get the feedback. You're talking from your perspective. So perspectives matching in today's times is very difficult.
Absolutely.
So I avoid. You know, it bothers me when I'm not getting my point across. So I choose to bother. It doesn't affect me.
Suddenly there is, the alarm is on the mental health of not just people but also students, young generation. Ma'am, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have somebody mentally healthy than intellectually healthy in my class. And now with the kind of course we run where we have got people in the middle age, they struggle because and that is we have got an IPR, incidentally, Dr. Chakradev and I, we've got a intellectual property right on the course we transact, and we believe that, you know, bridging heterogeneous groups is difficult where there are a lot of mental health issues faced. So what I try to do as a facilitator is to tell the older ones that take care of the younger ones, and tell the younger ones that the older ones are not so technically savvy, so please help them with their presentations. So collaboration, staying together as a team, networking, interpersonal skills are very important today, and that solves mental. You know, your peer group has to be a big support group to you for any student.
Ma'am, architecture, lessons of architecture have changed with times. There was a time when there was no AutoCAD. Now, you know, after AutoCAD was introduced, things changed drastically in the industry. Still, there are a lot of architects who still have a relationship with a pencil and a paper, and they still make designs over that. Ma'am, how do you see architecture, lessons, education, and most importantly, SMMCA's role in, you know, a girl's life when she chooses to become an architect?
SMMCA, I think, is the place to go to for architecture today. Again, I'm coming back to the same thing, Richard, because of the strong ideology it has. The ideology that students are free to choose their designs, students are free to defend their designs, and students are, made to look at a futuristic area of architecture. We have done a lot of things in this area, and you know, SMMCA is an offshoot of LED. So the LED ideals come definitely into play, and I believe architecture is a long way to go, because if you've seen Sustainable Development Goals which are coming up, which by 1930 we have to achieve, the 17 goals being given by the United Nations, everywhere the architect is playing a role. We are taking this into a big way in the way we design our studios, and LED has always done well, and now SMMCA does even better. I think it's the best place to come to.
Ma'am, what's your me time, ma'am? What's your me time?
Reading. And I'm now into Indian writing in English, and my television actress student always, whenever I share a book, one day she said, "Do you notice you're only sharing women authors?" And then I realize I somehow I smell books, so somehow I gravitate. Whenever I pick up the book, it always turns out that I'm choosing a woman writer. There are very good writers in the English fiction genre, and a lot of people tell me, "आप अभी भी fiction पढ़ते हो?" I said that's keeping me alive, and that's my me.
Ma'am, what's Dr. Lakshmi Rao's challenges in life? What are your challenges, ma'am?
I want to stay alive with minimal health issues. I have health issues, but then, like I picked up from that student of mine, no matter what you do, be the eternal optimistic person that you can. And if I am optimistic, I will probably make it infectious to the rest of my students.
मैम, एक गाना है जो मुझे बहुत ज़्यादा पसंद है, मुकेश द्वारा गाया गया गाना है, राज कपूर साहब की फिल्म का गाना है। और मैम मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये जो गाना है ना, ये आपकी पूरी की पूरी जर्नी को ना बहुत परफेक्ट मैच करता है। और वो है कि किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, इसके शब्द ऐसे हैं, किसी की मुस्कुराहटों पे हो निसार, किसी का दर्द मिल सके तो ले उधार, किसी के वास्ते हो अगर तेरे दिल में प्यार, तो जीना इसी का नाम है। मैम, आप बहुत सारी वेब सीरीज़ देखती रहें, आपका रिश्ता फिक्शन और थ्रिलर के साथ जुड़ा रहे, आप ऐसे ही मिनिमम हेल्थ इश्यूज़ के साथ मुस्कुराती रहें और लक्ष्मी बन के सरस्वती का आशीर्वाद हमें देते रहें। थैंक यू फॉर बीइंग माय गेस्ट। थैंक यू, इट्स एन ऑनर।
Thank you for being so kind with those words.
Ma'am, thank you for being, there always. Keep blessing us.
Thank you, Raj.
Super. डॉक्टर लक्ष्मी राव मैम से मुलाकात हुई, बात हुई। देखिए, यहाँ ना थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है मुझे, जब कुछ इंटरव्यूज़ में ख़त्म नहीं करना चाहता, लेकिन जब वो जो घड़ी है वो मुझे बार बार कहती है कि अब हो गया, आपको एक और अध्याय करना होगा। एक और इंटरव्यू मैं डेफिनेटली करूँगा डॉक्टर लक्ष्मी राव के साथ, बिकॉज बहुत सारी सी बातें जो बात करनी रह गई, लेकिन आप वो इंटरव्यू का इंतज़ार कीजिएगा। हम थोड़ा सा इंतज़ार जरूर करवाएंगे आपको, और वो इंटरव्यू ज़रूर मैं बहुत जल्द आपके सामने लेकर आऊँगा। अगर आपको इंटरव्यू पसंद आया है तो इस इंटरव्यू को ज़रूर शेयर कीजिएगा और उन तक ज़रूर पहुँचाइएगा जो टीचिंग सिर्फ इसीलिए करना चाहते हैं ताकि उनका एक करियर बन जाए और उनके जीवन में 7वां वेतन आ जाए। उन तक ये ज़रूर पहुँचाइएगा, बिकॉज़ ये एक ऐसे समर्पण की कहानी है जो अपने आप में सिर्फ यही कहना चाहती है कि अगर आप किसी भी काम को लेकर, किसी भी वचन को लेकर जब आप समर्पित रहते हैं तो आप वो मुकाम हासिल करते हैं जिसको लेकर लोग कितना भी उसको ऊंचा देखे, लोगों को वो भी ऐसा लगता है कि ये कम है, इससे ज़्यादा ऊंचा है ये। तो वैसा ही है, आप जब इन देवियों के बारे में बात करते हैं जो जिन्हें सरस्वती का विशेष रूप से आशीर्वाद मिला है, वो देवियाँ एक बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करती है हमारे समाज में, और तभी तो समाज ऐसी महिलाओं को देखकर ही तो अपने अंदर में परिवर्तन लाता है। नहीं तो युगों तक दबाया गया है लड़कियों को, युगों तक दबाया गया है महिलाओं के राइट्स को लेकर, कहाँ ये सब बातें हुआ करती थी। वो कहते हैं ना कि अब दर्जी भी सलवार में जेब लगाने लगे हैं और लड़कियों को यहाँ तक आने में ज़माने लगे हैं। लेकिन डॉक्टर लक्ष्मी राव जैसी महिलाएं जब आती हैं तो समाज में एक उम्मीद की किरण जागती है, काले बादल में वो रोशनी का काम करती हैं, जहाँ पर ये सीखने को मिलता है कि ये है तो हम हैं, और हम हैं तो ये दुनिया। जिंदा रहें। जय हिंद।